So, hi, Jamie, and congratulations on this gorgeous distillery that you've created and this beautiful brand, Brass Lion. It's great to be here today. So, I believe you're actually a former restaurateur before you are a gin distiller. So, tell us a little bit about that journey and what made you make the switch from F&B to gin.
So I used to be living in I used to live in the US, and when I came back to Singapore, I was ready to start my own business. I knew quite early on that I wasn't really about the 9 to 5. I really wanted to create my own thing. And one thing that I love was hospitality and creating new concepts and new experiences.
So, did you study culinary in the US?
So actually, I was a finance major.
Okay.
Business.
It does
business,
help with
yeah.
business, yeah.
Yeah. So I did that for a little bit, about a year, and then came back. So I was in my early 20s. And actually, when I first moved back, I won a startup competition. So I won my first startup.
Wow.
Yeah, and 14 years later, it's still standing.
Amazing. What's the bar?
It's a Chupido, so it's in Clarke Quay, right by the Singapore River, and this is version 3.0, so it's kind of evolved
Right.
us as well. So we just opened less than 6 months ago.
Oh wow. Okay. This is the new location.
It's a new location, yeah, but the brand has been around for 14 years.
And so you're doing both these businesses now in
Yeah.
parallel.
Yeah. And shortly after that, I also opened. I went to school in Atlanta, Georgia. So I opened like a Southern comfort food, soul food, bourbon bar,
Nice.
with live music and open mic. So kind of bring
Grits
little
and
slice.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The first was
Yeah.
like chicken and waffles
Yeah.
and shrimp and grits, things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. But I guess through my journey, I really wanted to, I guess, create a brand and to kind of bring that brand, build that brand. So I feel like something that would be something that's built to last, right? Rather than just running different concepts, which is very operationally driven. Like I have the best concept, but it's the day-to-day operations. I wanted to build something that could grow beyond the shores of Singapore. And
Well, you did something pretty pioneering for Singapore, and I mean, back in India as well. So I think in the last 10 years is when we've seen gin becoming, being made like homegrown brands sort of coming up, and it's amazing to see the number of brands we have in India today. And you've done exactly the same for Singapore, which is incredible. So, I mean, Satish, who's your business partner, mentioned that you guys started the process of conceptualizing this idea of creating a gin 10 years before you actually launched in 2018. So, what was that process of learning? I mean, this is something completely new. And firstly, why gin?
yeah. So I started this process in 2012. Like that was the first
Right.
part of the idea. I had actually taken a year off. I booked a one-way ticket to travel the world. And as people in F&B do, you go around the world and you eat and drink your way around.
That's what I'm doing here.
Right. And so, and I guess that's the best way to know a
Yeah.
country, right? Through food and their drinks. And I was, doing that. And I realized that, how come every country had something to call their own, I mean, food, yes, but also drinks wise, right? And they're infusing a lot of their local herbs and spices and ingredients into their drinks. And as a Singaporean, I felt it's a huge shame that we didn't have something like that. And so that planted the first seed of the idea in my head, so in 2012. And so towards the tail end of my trip, I actually diverted my way and found my way in the US, where I actually took a distilling course in Washington State. And after that, while running my 2 other venues, I actually made a trip every year to go and practice or to learn from someone, from a distillery.
So, I mean, that's amazing from a learning perspective, but what about, from a sort of just regulatory and sort of legal perspective of creating an alcohol brand
Right.
in Singapore?
Yes.
What was that like? Was it a learning curve for the authorities as much as it was for you? Or-
Definitely, very much so. We took about 3 years to get. I didn't think about reaching out to the authorities until 3 years later. Once we had the recipe done,
Right.
once we knew how to distill and everything was locked in place, then we started the application process. So this was back in 2015, and no one knew to do which authority to go to. There wasn't a distilling license
Sure.
at all. We were given a
So,
micro
is there
brewing
nothing
license.
else that was being distilled?
No,
Wow.
there's nothing. in 2015. We were given a micro brewing license, and they were like, "Here, work on this," and I'm like, "It's completely different. Like everything didn't apply, and we had to literally write it one by
Wow.
one." Yeah. So we finally did that, and then there's another hurdle, which is you're at this space right now, and it's you have distillers, when people come through, you can do the tour, you can do the school. But what they actually wanted us was to be a pure manufacturing facility, which is the standard in Singapore. So pure industrial somewhere else. But we fought really hard regulations-wise to get this space, right, for both commercial and industrial at the same time. So
Wow.
so
So
a lot
lots
of
of
a lot,
firsts.
yeah, I mean, and amongst other things. So the licensing process probably took about 3 years. Yeah.
So that must have been hugely challenging. Did you ever feel like giving up and saying, this is crazy. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, some days you're just like, I mean, with my determination, I'm like, it's gonna happen one day, but I'm like, I don't know how this is gonna happen, but we'll make it happen. Yeah. I guess, yeah, pure determination.
That's amazing. I read somewhere that you applied to like 500 different gin distilleries. What was that like? I mean that's another big hurdle. Like, of course, going to doing the formal sort of training process is one bit, but then getting the hands-on experience is a whole different thing. So, what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, the hands-on thing is very, very important because once you do the course, you have all the theoretical knowledge and know where to apply, right? And yeah, I mean, obviously, no distillery was super willing to open their doors and be like, "Come here and we'll show you everything we want. We'll teach you everything." So it was through friends of friends and through personal contacts that we actually managed to do it. Otherwise, like you said, 500 people and not one said yes, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had the apprentice got stint in Charleston, South Carolina, and then we went to the UK, and finally we ended up in the Black Forest in Germany, and we literally there was us going there and just knocking on doors and like speaking to people and getting to know the community of distillers that before we found out as the distiller.
So you finally launched the brand in 2018.
Yeah.
What's the response been like? Did your sales shoot up during COVID, or was that a pretty challenging time for you? What's the last 4 or 5 years been like?
So 2018 we launched, and then we said, well, I told my team 2019 we'll focus on Singapore because we're here to build a Singapore brand,
Right.
and we need Singaporeans to know about it from going overseas. So 2019 was spent really in Singapore doing a lot of events. And then 2020 we said we'll go overseas, but I guess you know how that story turned
Yeah.
out. So 2020, 21, 22 was really spent just kind of, surviving COVID. And yes, definitely gin sales went up in the first half of it. But we have multiple revenue streams. So just cause the e-commerce or the gin bottle sales went up, all the bars, the restaurants are shut, the bars are shut, the hotels are shut. We couldn't have the tasting room here is shut. We couldn't do our experiences. So, some went up, but the rest were like basically close to zero. So, but we pulled through, we made it through the hardest part of it. So now this is the year where we're just starting to, I guess get back on track and start to reach out to all the export markets.
So just coming back to the product for a second, what makes it uniquely Singaporean?
So I think Singapore is very different. When we first launched, I was like, obviously people know the London Dry style of gin. And we were like, we don't want to just do a London Dry, right? Because I think London Dry is great. That's what people know as the standard of gin, but it typically is quite drinkable forward and quite heavy. So it's great for colder weather like in the UK. But what we wanted to do was to not only showcase the herbs and spices that we know in Southeast Asia, that we're familiar with in our cuisine, but also to create a tropical gin. So something that makes you feel like, you're in the tropics, something fresh, refreshing, something hot day on the beach and you drink that, right? Not London Dry, not whiskey neat, for example, right? Yeah.
Interesting. So, you had to pause your international expansion, but are we looking to expect this in India anytime soon? What's the international foray looking like for you?
I hope so. Hopefully India and hopefully the rest of the world. We just got into Hong Kong. We're getting into other countries like Australia. UK is already there. See, we're doing the US as well. China. So, slowly starting to get back on track and restarting a lot of conversations that were happening pre-COVID. But we are in a few countries already, and hopefully India.
Yes. Well, I mean, I've tasted it, and I'm looking forward to seeing it in India. But gin is currently exploding around the world, right? I mean, even in India, if not every month, every couple of months, there's a new gin on the block, and it's something that there are some which are very distinctive, and people are beginning to find their favorites. We're even seeing sort of flavored gins. We're seeing slow gin. It's definitely something that's evolving, and I think people are more willing to try and experiment with local gin. So it's amazing. But what's the sort of response been in Singapore, and are you seeing more gin brands sort of launching here? Is it a trend that's really picking up here as well?
I mean, it's quite hard to open a gin brand in Singapore just because like everything is expensive. It's expensive to manufacture here. So, and Singapore is quite a small market as well. So, I mean, there are a few of us now since we've launched. But yeah, I'm not sure if there'll be any more, but it's currently like 3-4 companies. And, I'm not sure if there'll be more to come, but I think our sites as well is not only just to focus on Singapore. Obviously, it is an important market for us. But this brand was built really to go beyond the shores of Singapore.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it will. I get asked this a lot as a female entrepreneur and restaurateur that, what are the challenges for me? What's it like here for you? I mean, is that, especially when you're looking at creating a spirit?
I think for me, I just kind of, I've always just done what I want to do. So even when I first opened the bar, for example, we were 24 and it was just 2 young girls, and I opened in Clarke Quay, which was very, very dominated by like I guess middle-aged like local male bar owners, and so it was just kind of like, okay, we'll figure it out as we go along, and sometimes we use that to our advantage, sometimes it worked against us. But I think I've always just been kind of like not letting gender stand in the way and just kind of doing our own thing. Even in the distilling world, like I mean, there are more and more female distillers or people running distilling companies out there. But when I wrote into distilleries or every single distillery that I visited, like I had never seen a woman have right. And that's something that I realized later on. It wasn't like, oh no, like why is it so male dominated? But just like I guess that's what it is, and like we just do our own thing.
Yeah.
But I guess at Brass Lion, we never let that stand in the way. So like there's me, but our brand ambassador is female. Like our master blender, she's like female. I feel like females, like women, have a bit more sensitive to like taste and like they're a bit more, I guess, detail oriented. As you can see when you do the gin school as well.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people that teach during the gin school, they use like take down and they like taste it, and so I feel like we make the most of it and we do what works for us, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree.
And the guys do the heavy lifting. But I think, yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, I think it's something that you just keep your head down and keep doing what you do, and take it a day at a time.
What keeps me up at night is it's the education piece, because people are used to the big brands, and you hear your Hendrix and Monkey and all of that, and people are used to that, so they tend to carry what they know. But it's how do we go through the education piece, and how do we then slowly get to bring the brand out to the market and say, hey, what about Brass Lion instead? Or now a lot of people, they go to the bars or local bars and say, well, why do you not have local gins? But that's an education piece, because most bars will just take brands that they know.
Right. And many people may not even know that there's a local gin available, right? So you do need the support of the community to put it out there. And what's behind the name? Obviously, the lion is Singapore,
Lion
but what's behind
Brass Lion? So we're inspired by the lions that kind of watch over the house. If you go outside, you see this lion out there, but like the 2 lions, they get in front of the house, like by the gates, they kind of watch over guardians, and they guard the house and protect the house. So if you look at our crest, it's 2 lions surrounding the still. And so kind of like the protectors or guardians of the still and the product. I think at the heart of it, a lot of brands and bigger brands, they have the marketing and all that. But I think it's our little saying that at the heart of it all, it's the product and protecting that, right? Yeah.
So Jamie, of course, you have your classic gin, classic style gin,
or dry gin.
The dry gin, but you've also got the Pahit Pink. Am I saying that right? Yeah. So and the blue pea, the butterfly pea. So tell us about these two, and what made you pick these, and what's unique about these two varieties.
So the butterfly pea gin actually is modeled after if you look at the label, it's Peranakan house. And so I understand you went to the gin shop earlier. You can see the house.
Ah,
It's a common feature in a lot of Peranakan houses.
right.
And the reason for using the butterfly pea is because not just for the color. I feel like a lot of people, maybe if they use it for the color, it's like one thing, but we use it actually because it's tied to our heritage and our Peranakan heritage. So like it's used a lot in local Peranakan cooking.
Right.
So for example, like the blue coconut rice,
Yes.
the actual blue
Yes.
comes from the butterfly pea powder.
Right.
So that's the reason why we use it in our
And how would you
gin.
describe the flavor profile of this?
So this is actually a floral gin. So lavender is the main botanical here, and along with butterfly pea flower, which is actually very earthy. It's not much top flavor, so that's why the lavender works to enhance that. And so this is obviously color changing.
Yeah.
It changes from blue to pink, but it's a fun drink. And if you look at the Peranakan house, I think that's something that's very very unique to us, the Peranakan house.
Absolutely. Oh, that's beautiful. And then we've got this one. So tell us about the pink.
So Pahit actually means bitter in Malay. When the British came to Singapore during the war, they used to drink this cocktail called Pink Gin, which is essentially gin, orchestra bitters, and sweetened slightly.
Mhm.
So they continued to drink this drink, but it became known as Pahit, gin Pahit in bars because it's gin and bitters, and Pahit means bitter in Malay.
Right.
Yeah. So this gin, we actually recreated it because when the British left Singapore, it fell out of favor and you don't see it around anymore. So we've tried to bring it back. Instead of using like a British gin, for example, we've used the Singapore dry gin as the base for this. Instead of using Angostura bitters, which is from Trinidad and Tobago, we've made our own house-made Singapore bitters, featuring a lot of herbs and spices from the traditional Chinese medicine shops. So things like cloves, star anise, nutmeg, hawthorn flowers, roselle. Yeah,
Amazing. And you've got the map
the map.
of the world here. So hopefully you'll conquer that very soon.
World domination.
Yes. And how do you recommend drinking this?
So this is actually can be drank old-fashioned style. So just like on the rocks. I like to drink it. It's very simple, but it's like with hot chocolate.
Really?
It makes a great spiked, boozy hot chocolate.
What a great
hot
idea.
chocolate, shot of this, whipped cream. It's
Oh
great
my
for
God.
Christmas. It's great as a base for mild wine as well, or an espresso martini.
Wow, interesting. I've never put gin actually in my mulled wine. I'm going to try that.
Because all the spices are in there.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you're in Singapore or wherever Brass Lion is, just definitely try it out. And congratulations again.
Yeah.
And we really look forward to seeing it in India.
Hopefully soon, yeah.